even with my legal practice or with Newfangled, that's the takeaway. When people leave a review or provide feedback, at least in my practice area of law, people aren't like, Patrick got me the best bankruptcy discharge of my life. That was the dopest bankruptcy ever, or what have you. They go, Patrick made me feel hurt, or they made it so easy. Well, that's about the experience.
When you're driven, the need to accomplish a goal is relentless. Hard work and ambition compel you to do whatever's necessary. In my work as a personal injury trial lawyer for 18 years, it's common to meet driven people. Those with drive can have different personalities, careers, or backgrounds, but they possess one common factor. Despite their passions, driven people want to surround and motivate themselves with other driven people. If you want to learn how to overcome obstacles by learning from others, then tune in here. This is the Driven Crowd Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into episode 67 of the Driven Crowd Podcast, fueled by Snellings Law. I'm your host, Scott Snellings. My guest today is not your typical attorney, which you can probably figure out if you're actually watching this on YouTube right now. Patrick Patino is a creative writing major turned lawyer, novice potter, logophile, which one is it, Patrick?
I mean, it depends upon what you want to say. You could say in your Texas drawl.
All right. We're going to be a logophile, wordsmith, wanderer, avid cloud watcher, and the founder and owner of Newfangled, LLC, and Patino Law Office. Patrick cares about attorney well-being and designing law firms and legal practices that align with the life an attorney wants to live. He started Patino Law Office because he cares about his clients on a personal level, and he believed in designing his law firm to align with the life he wants to live and the impact he wants to have. Patrick, welcome to the Driven Crowd Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Scott. That was a wonderful intro. I forgot that I put avid cloud watcher.
It sounds very out there.
Well, it is, and I think practicing live now. I'm in my 10th year of practice. Is that you really start to lean into your unique kind of differentiators as a person, and like, what do you bring differently and apart from other people that practice law, not in a substantive way? Because at a certain point, like, everyone has the same technical acumen, and so even from a client's perspective, when they're looking at attorney A to attorney B, if attorney A and attorney B do the same thing, look the same way, say the same things, it's difficult for a client to make a decision on who to go with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, part of that is, as we get older, we just get more comfortable in our own skin. And, as lawyers, I think we're kind of taught to hold back. You always have to have this professional demeanor. You have to dress this certain way. You have to, think about being in court, right? Even though I'd say a whole lot of lawyers are never in court. But still,
if I'm in court, something's gone wrong. Something's gone horribly wrong.
You're likely going to be on the wrong side of the V, having to hire your own lawyer.
Not good.
Yeah. But I think, as we age and we get older and we gain more experience, you just kind of tend to push those things aside and just become yourself. And I've seen it a little bit more too in the younger lawyers, the ones that work with us, the ones that I'm just around. It seems like they're getting to that point a lot earlier too.
Yeah, I think it's because there's a emphasis now more so in law school on like personal development and personal like values, and what is your value set, and why are you going to be practicing law and working in an environment that aligns with those. And so like for me, having my own law firm has allowed me and provided me the opportunity to, structure a firm that resonates with me, how I operate, what I care about, which is being kind and approachable and an everyday dude, everyday guy, because my clients are everyday people.
Right.
And it allows a different level of trust and cooperation from clients. I practice bankruptcy law. And so, I'm helping people navigate a complex legal system that a lot of people just have fear around. There's not, what I joke, I say there's not like a CSI bankruptcy. No one would watch it. But so people are coming in to, talk with me. A lot of times we're not even really talking about the legal issues.
Yeah.
The human issues first.
Wait, and we see that same thing on the personal injury side. I mean, a lot of times people's, the first time they meet with me, that's the first time they've ever actually sat down and met with a lawyer. And so one of the things I learned early on is, if I walk in totally buttoned up, serious, and, just the facts, and here's the game plan, and here's what we're going to do, they're on edge the entire time. If I walk in, I'm in my jeans and, some sort of a shirt that I'm comfortable in, and I can sit down and we can just chat for a while about life, who they are, where they come from, man, it completely changes the tenor of that entire meeting. And go ahead.
It creates openness.
Yeah.
And openness creates trust. Trust then drives honesty. And people tell, what I've found is then we'll be providing you kind of the worst facts up front, earlier on, as opposed to later in the game, or not at all. And then it gets discovered later on.
Right.
And so it allows you to provide a better service and address a lot of times the biggest legal issue, because people feel comfortable, at ease. Fear is a very bad driver of human decision making. And so like in even, personal injury, people have a lot of fear around what's going to happen. What will the outcome be? Bankruptcy, there's a lot of pride, there's a lot of shame, and they feel as though traditionally, that attorneys were going to talk down to them, were going to dismiss them. But when you just sit and you're like, hey, we're going to have a chat, and that's how your firm is designed, what I've discovered is that's actually now why people are reaching out to me and hiring me, is because I've had people say, like, I like that on your website, you're wearing a backwards hat and a hoodie.
Definitely distinctive, right? Like that's just not something that lawyers would do.
No, and I think the kind of, to your point, of the younger attorneys, and there's some examples like this, like Tyler O'Brien, who's the long hair lawyer.
Yep. He's been on the show.
Yeah, I know. And he's a great example, right? Like you would write, not really know until you kind of sit down and talk with him, that guy's wicked smart.
Right.
He really knows his stuff. And if you just judged a book by its cover in a traditional sense, right, I think you would miss an opportunity. And so I think a lot of people now that are even searching out professionals in general are like, how is this going to make me comfortable? Does this person make the process easy? Right? In terms of even, is there a lot of friction? And so, like, how do you not only leverage the fact that you have this new way of being, but you have to back it up with the proper technical acumen. You have to have expertise. You have to have good systems in place. It can't just all be branding.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think with this real push towards entrepreneurialism within kind of the legal industry, I think you have a whole lot of young lawyers who get the marketing. They're good at it. They get even the operations and systems, but they skipped a pretty crucial step, which is becoming really good at what you do. Right? It's easy. Yeah. It's easy for them to get people in the door, but then how do they handle it? Hey, do they have the technical acumen? And that's the biggest thing when people talk to me about, hey, I really want to start my own law firm. How should I go about that? I was like, first, get really good at being a lawyer. Good at being a lawyer. At least that's how I approach it. If I had zero interest in the law, then I would find somebody else who's a really good lawyer and partner up with them and figure, hey, I'll take care of the business aspect and the marketing aspect. You practice the law.
Yeah, I mean, you are still at the end of the day providing a professional legal service.
Yeah.
And there are rules and guidelines you have to follow to have competency. And the other thing too is what I tell people all the time is, in terms of even finding a niche, find a thing that you enjoy and you're good at and you desire to continue to learn about it. Because I think that can kind of be a missed thing too, is like, well, I don't know what I like, or I don't know what I'm good at. It's like, well, even think of what I've even started focusing on is even like what I call the lifestyle law firm. Let's say you're someone who really likes health and wellness, yoga and Pilates. Well, shoot, you could just be start a law firm that provides boutique business legal services for that community.
Yeah.
Right. And so it doesn't have to be like personal injury. It doesn't have to be, criminal law. It could be, instead of a practice area based, almost like something that you enjoy, that you even have a lot of knowledge about that industry, and you're just layering on top of it the legal.
And I think where we have the opportunity today that it didn't exist, a decade, 2 decades ago, is the ability to get our message out on so many different platforms in a way that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. That really does allow you to niche down into those specific areas, because you can reach out to those people in so many different avenues and say, look, I'm your guy. I'm your guy. This is what my law firm does. All my law firm does is help, Pilates and yoga instructors with their businesses. And so to me, I think that's a massive change in the law.
Oh, it's a totally different business model.
Yeah, totally.
And once again, it's about friction. Let's say you really are big into like the video game scene. Oh my gosh, you could just be a video game lawyer. I mean, and you don't have to do that at the traditional spaces like a big law firm.
Right.
You could basically have clients that are big clients and do this on a smaller scale, because you just serve one unique niche for that big client and you become the guy. So it's like, hey, we have this issue. Well, we know there's the one guy who does the video game law.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're focused on lifestyle law firm. Walk me through how you came to that and how you've built your firm to become that lifestyle law firm.
Yeah. So right out of law school, I worked with my father-in-law, who had been a solo attorney for 35-ish years. And then he retired right before the pandemic, and I went out on my own. And I started actually April 1st, 2020, and then the world shut down. And it's really been an iterative process, right, of trying different things, of experimenting. So I was solo for a while, and then no one was filing bankruptcy during the pandemic, but I was generating a lot of leads for like complex litigation. So I was sending out a bunch of work to other attorneys, and an attorney reached out to me. I'm like, hey, you know what? He was going to go solo. I was like, hey, how about we partner up? You're a litigator. I'll just feed you work, and we'll come up with a split. So I did that, and we were virtual. We worked distributed, different states. We never worked physically together, even from the beginning. And then we started growing. So we added some attorneys, and there's growing pains with that. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And I realized that how I practice law is my mindset, my approach to it is very different. Like, I am not trying to scale to make the most money possible. I'm not trying to work the most hours. I'm not trying to have the most clients. I don't work on the weekends. I don't take client communications after 5 o'clock. And through kind of this growing pains, right, is you end up kind of getting pulled in a lot of different directions. So I was just out of whack, out of sync. And so it really then brought into focus a lot of clarity of, okay, This is exactly what I don't want to do, is get pulled out of kind of my most natural workflow, the thing that works for me. And so then I went back solo actually last June. So it's iterative.
Right.
You have to take risks. You have to experiment. Attorneys were told we're risk averse, and I think that's just wrong.
Right.
I think we're good at identifying risk and then deciding what to do around it or with it or avoid it, or mitigate it. I don't think we just outright say, well, we never take risk ever. It's informed risk. It's intentional risk. And, so I just arrived at a point where practicing law to me is more about kind of what happens when I'm not doing the substantive work. I want to be able to, hang out with my kids. I want to be able to, on the weekends, completely disconnect. That's what works for me. I've done radical things like I don't use a smartphone. And so if I'm not sitting like here at my computer space, like my workstation, I don't have email. No one can get a hold of me. It's like it's
wow.
1990. But at the same time, I love technology. I'm automated. A lot of things are automated. We're fully virtual. We're 100% paperless. And so it's kind of like, how do you marry these kind of what seem like disjointed or disparate ways of practicing law? So in some ways, it's like I practice when, there was not all this hyper connectivity.
Yeah.
And how I replace that is with automation, right? Where even our intake flow, like don't need to be a part of it. It all just flows and happens. And so some people, right, in this space would be like, well, you need to pick up the phone, right? If you don't pick up the phone, you're missing out on business. And I've made a choice. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it doesn't serve me. I don't want to always be on call. I don't want to manage Ruby receptionists or a remote legal assistant in the Philippines. I'm not saying that doesn't work for other people.
Right.
But it's a choice, right? Everything's a choice. And I've decided that if someone can't wait for me to call them back, or if someone can't make their way through our very easy online process to schedule a consultation, that's okay. They'll go someplace else. And I'll live with that choice because it allows me to live the lifestyle I want.
So have you come to points where you start second guessing those decisions of, oh man, if we haven't had a new case in however long, I should probably maybe pick up the phone?
Oh yeah. I mean, so this is not like you make a decision, you stick there.
Yeah.
It can be very fluid, and you can second guess yourself because there's a traditional playbook of how to do this. And I'm very active on LinkedIn, much like you are, Scott. And there's people posting things about, what to do, what not to do. Here are the 5 things I learned, 10 things that I learned. The hot thing right now is lists. These go in waves. I think because the group of us is not very big.
Right.
And so I think themes just kind of get picked up. And so I've experienced this directly right before Christmas this past year in 2024. Google suspended my Google business profile.
Oh, that's not what you want.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, that's killer.
And it's absolutely. And I'm still dealing with it. I'm still right now dealing with this issue. And right. And then you can think like, oh my gosh, should I over rely upon this?
Yeah.
Right. Should I have done X? Should I have done Y? Well, I was just doing what people tell you to do, like get a Google business profile. It's free. Get a bunch of reviews. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, I've definitely gone through periods of like, gosh, I should have had a newsletter. I should have done this. I should have done that. But that list could be a non-exhaustive list. You'll never get to the end of the things you realize later in time that you should or could have done in hindsight.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's definitely times I'm like, am I getting too funky? Am I getting too, is this too out there? And I can talk on that. So I rebranded. So when I launched back solo is High Five Legal. Because I wanted just like an approachable, fun, fresh branding. And what I discovered is that clients loved it. Prospective clients loved it. But attorneys I didn't know, let's say on the opposite side
Right.
of something, who didn't know me, it was like their first interaction, almost didn't take me seriously. And that's not the point.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this a long time. And then you feel like you have to like prove it. Like, so I started being like, well, here's my credentials. Like I tallied bankruptcy, right? And then you feel weird because you're like, what am I trying to prove? And to who and for what reason?
And so after that, that's what made you switch back to the Patino Law Office?
Well, that and Google or Google overlords didn't like that, or at least I'm assuming, because they don't tell you for sure,
No.
that I was using a DBA and it got flagged somehow. So I don't know. So I decided, I was like, it's not worth it to me.
Right.
I mean, and if the name is the name, and the vibe, the experience, there's nothing to do with a name at the end of the day. So I practice a lot of just like non-attachment. Like that didn't work. That's okay. Pivot.
Right.
And try the next thing. And sometimes you have to put yourself out there. You have to try some different things that other people haven't tried before, and it might not work.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some other things? You're a very creative guy. Maybe it comes while you're cloud watching. I don't know. Maybe these ideas come then. So what are some other marketing things that you've tried that were a bit out there, whether they worked or not?
Oh, so through the Newfangled lawyer, I started this thing called the Lonely Lawyers Club, which it's like funky attorney meetups where we do things that attorneys don't typically do. So last year I did a tattoo event here in Minneapolis. Tyler O'Brien actually flew in from California to do it.
I think I remember seeing this. And
it was super fun. I mean, it was an absolute blast to do. Like the night before, we went out to dinner and like hung out, and then the next day we hung out, and it was a group of people. Some people I never had met before. I didn't even know some people that signed up to do it, and it really drove a connection. We all got matching tattoos, which Tyler. I had never met Tyler in person before. And so it's just like a really cool to show kind of the interconnectivity of all of us. And so I'm doing it again. Here coming up on March 22nd. And people really, this resonates with people. So several people have already signed up, a couple people from out of state. So it's cool.
That is cool.
I'm always into like, how do we push the envelope? And right, it's an experience. I'm all about the experience, because even with my legal practice or with Newfangled, that's the takeaway. When people leave a review or provide feedback, at least in my practice area of law, people aren't like, Patrick got me the best bankruptcy discharge of my life. Like that was the dopest bankruptcy ever, or what have you. They go, Patrick made me feel heard, or they made it so easy. Well, that's about the experience.
Yeah.
And so,
exactly.
What else do I have up my sleeve? I got other things, but first I need to get Google back online. Then the fun begins.
All right, so I've got to ask the follow-up question of what was the tattoo that you guys, and how did it come about? Did you guys talk about it and agree to it, or did you just force it upon everyone?
No. So we got be kind or kindness tattoos. Actually, who came up with the idea is my buddy Ryan McLaughlin. And it was just put out there like, hey, we're gonna if you sign up for this,
this is what you're signing up for.
This is what you're signing up for. So everyone got that, either be kind or kindness. It was a total of 6 people got it. We didn't talk about it before. No one came to an agreement. And so it's one of those things of like, yeah, I guess like lack of, when you just like buy into like a way of being, this go around, people can choose, because that was some of the feedback is like, I would have joined if I could have decided what I got, which
totally understandable.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. This is a permanent thing on your body, and so we'll see what people get this time. I think will be kind of the cool aspect of it is what will be the variety of it, and I'll probably keep doing these.
Very cool. Did you post pictures?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. I must have missed that. Then.
Yeah. Well, you have to check it out. I'll post more pictures in this next go around. But yeah, I mean, we can have fun as lawyers. So like, what have you done? What have you done, Scott? It's like something maybe off the wall.
So, I mean, nothing off the wall. One of the things that our firm does is we do a monthly service project in the communities that we serve.
Love it.
And so, we asked the team for ideas. We've done all kinds of stuff. We've fed firefighters. We've helped clean up traditional Black cemeteries on Martin Luther King Day. We have helped pack bags for PACs, which is, they provide meals for kids who can't afford meals, especially over the weekends, over the summer. We've donated sunscreen to the same facility for over the summer because those kids are outside running around. They need sunscreen.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
I don't even think about that normally.
Yeah, I don't know who came up with that, but we're like, that's really creative. I like that because that's not something that people would give them, right? Like sunscreen. And it's something you absolutely need for health, right? We try to focus all of our initiatives on health of some sort. And so, right now we're doing a nurse giveaway. So if you're listening to this, feel free to nominate a nurse in the DFW area. And we go give them gift baskets full of things that they like and they want, but you don't really want to have to buy. Things like lotions and snacks and things like that come in handy for them. And so, one of the things that we're working on too is promoting businesses within the community. So just developing a tighter relationship with the various businesses around town. And that can be on social media. It can be, through in-person events. We're constantly trying to be creative. And, one of the things that, obviously as personal injury attorneys, we don't have the best reputation out among the community. But one of the things that we really try to do as a firm is be an asset, right? We want to be an asset, not just in the ability to help people through the personal injury process, make sure they're taken care of, that they're getting healthy, and then resolve the claim for them, but also be an asset in different ways. By giving back, we sponsor a whole bunch of things, whether it be softball teams, schools, what have you. But we really want to be known as that law firm that really does care about the community and adds value.
And that, there's an attorney here. His name's Russell Nicolay. He does personal injury, Nicolay Law, and that's a big part of what they do. Is like we're in the community. We're just like you.
Yeah.
And it really resonates with people because, attorneys, you mentioned personal injury attorneys in particular, but all of us, right? The profession has such a stigma of like wanting to take advantage of people.
Yeah.
Or we're like sharks, or we are manipulative, or we trick people, or all of these things. And, does that exist? Absolutely.
Sure.
It does. But now because of social proof, right? It was a lot harder before. When you looked up someone in the phone book, you didn't know.
Absolutely.
But now, because of social proof, I mean, people, what I say is most people don't go on and leave a bad Google review unless they're of the type that do. And so it still can be hard to know, like, who are the people that are still that way and not. But it's a lot easier than it used to be. And as an attorney, right, you have it in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Like, right. I think more so now than before. 30 years ago, I'm sure there was much more of being dismissive of a client because you're like, well, what are you going to do? Now, now someone could go put you on blast on TikTok. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no, in lieu of like a formal bar complaint, there's all kinds of different ways that your reputation can be, kind of attacked. And so I like that emphasis on community and creating community. So how do you go about doing that at your law firm? Like creating that sense of community?
You mean within the firm?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we do monthly team meetings followed by happy hour. We do team lunches all the time. We do all the service projects together. Like we just all went down and took a bunch of food down to the Frisco, like kind of food pantry, Frisco Family Services. And then we'll do a volunteer event there either later this year or next year where we go help stock the shelves and do all that kind of stuff. Getting out of the office or staying in the office, but shifting away from the legal work and just spending time together. Because really, that's what relationships is, or that's what relationships are, is just spending time. And when you don't have this, like you've got to focus on work, you've got to be worried about this, that, or the other, you can kind of relax. And that's where people's real personalities come out. That's where you learn about them. You learn about their families. You learn about what they like. And so, to me, I think carving out that time for the team to spend together is huge.
And that's one of the things I think that is really helping promote kind of this new kind of law firm, new way of practicing law, that it's a community. I don't want to go so far. I don't like when people call things like families, or anything like that. But I think community is a really good way, and having time to just be present with other people, right, and build relationships is such a key component to the new way of practicing law, where it's not all just about the functionality of getting tasks done. I mean, that's part of it, right. But if you can have a relationship with the people you work with and trust the people you work with in a different way, to like have your back, to understand you and how you work inside of the law firm and outside of it, it's so important. It's one of the big benefits I have is like I've worked with my paralegal now for a decade.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
And I joke, but I'm probably more than half serious. Like if she stopped working for me, I'd retire. Like I'd be like, I'm done.
Yeah. And so I think too, a key to having that community is, man, you got to give people a say. You got to give people a say so that they can then take ownership. So for instance, this last week on Thursday and Friday, we took all of our pre-lit team on Thursday and we did an off-campus. We took all of our lit team on Friday and did an off-campus. And what we did is we had everybody think through all of our task flows, all of our designs for our processes, and put issues up on the board. And we had a wall full of issues. And so,
of course,
but of course, which is a good thing, right? Because that means there's stuff to fix. Yep. And so then we just, all right, 1, 2, 3. What are we going to talk about first? And so, we go through the first issue. What's the issue? Okay, is this an issue of we have a task that we don't need? Is it not working correctly? Does it just not accomplish what it's supposed to accomplish? Whatever it is, we identify what the issue is with that task. And then the team chimes in on, well, actually, when it comes to this particular issue, it should work this way, but here's how it's working. Okay, how do we fix it? Well, I think if we just moved it back a few days, then that would take care of itself. Awesome. All right, let's implement that change. Right. And so then you're getting everybody's feedback on it, and everybody's a part of creating the solution. And so, as you well know, if you're a part of creating that solution, you're going to want to see it work. And if it's not working, you're going to get feedback.
Buy-in.
Yeah, more buy-in.
And there's more even just promotion of autonomy and speaking up and speaking out when something isn't working.
Yeah, and we got really smart people. Like, I want their ideas. I want their big brains helping to solve these problems.
Yeah, you crave it, and that's a distinction. Is that anyone, if you have openness that anyone on your team can have a brilliant idea, there's going to be a lot of brilliant ideas.
Yeah. When we go through our quarterly reviews, one of the things that we look at is, hey, how have you helped the firm in terms of the processes, marketing, whatever, with ideas that you brought to the table, ideas or issues. Like, hey, this isn't working, which is awesome. Like, okay, awesome. What's the proposed solution? Because I don't need to be the one coming up with all the solutions. I don't have the best ideas. I have a whole lot of ideas.
Yeah.
Some of them are good.
Well, there's only so much capacity, right? Is that, I mean, as attorneys, there's only so much leveraging of your own health, your own well-being that you can do. And in a traditional sense, attorneys is like, well, sacrifice your whole self and give every ounce of your capacity that you have as a human being, and you're exceptional, right? And I just think that paradigm is shifting. I know you've had your own health stuff that you've survived, but like my father-in-law, he had a heart transplant in his 50s. And you go like, and then he came back to work after it and worked more, right, for another 15 years. And I think there's this kind of sea change where attorneys, you would say, well, what is the one thing that you would change? And even my partner, I had a partner, Sam, his name's Sam. He's awesome. He's practiced law for 30 years. He's the one I partnered with after I went solo. And I asked him, I was like, what is the one thing you would change? And he has 3 kids. He would say, I should have worked less. I should have gone to more sport events. I should have spent more time with my kids. And I think instead of just getting to that point in careers, now attorneys are starting to say early on, I'm listening, right? And people are asking, and the older attorneys are more open of sharing, this is what I wish I had done differently. And people are taking that to heart, and it's driving decision-making. It's driving behavior changes. It's just driving kind of structural changes of what I will call how most law is practiced is in small and medium-sized firms. And that's where really the change goes. Big law firms, right? It's like you're trying to steer a ship the size of 500 Titanics. That's difficult, right? But like we can be nimble. Like you just said, you can have an offsite team meeting, say, here are the issues, and be like, okay, we have identified the issue. Here's the change. We're going to implement the change.
Yeah. Within a day.
Yeah. Like we can do it. Okay. We're going to do that. And so I think it's at our level of practicing law, the smaller level, you can effectuate just a lot more change of the legal profession at large, because then you lead by example. You're like, hey, it is possible to do this differently. It is possible to both run a law firm, practice law, and train for a marathon and coach your kids' sports teams. Yeah. Like you can do these things. They're not mutually exclusive. You just have to have a structure. You have to have a plan. You have to be intentional, and you have to communicate clearly. Attorneys historically just assume that people know what they want or going to do. Like everyone's a mind reader. But if you communicate to your team, hey, over the week of Christmas, we're taking it off, and here's why, and here's what everyone expects, then you can do it. So I think we can achieve kind of much more alignment. I don't like the word balance, but alignment of saying, hey, Kate, our the way in which we practice law can align a lot more with what we value, what we want to do outside of our role of just being attorney or law firm owner.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't ever want to get past the point where we can't make those immediate changes, right? I don't ever want to create enough of a red tape bureaucracy where things can't happen immediately, because that would drive me nuts. Same. Absolutely nuts.
I couldn't handle it because, particularly now, from a client's perspective, there's an expectation of the immediacy, and if something's not working, you can quickly change it because the world is working so fast now. And so if you're not adapting, right? We had even a client within the past, I would say 6 months, provided really good feedback about our process of how we collect information and paperwork. And I went to my paralegal. I said, we're going to immediately stop using that because if one person now is saying it feels it this way, and it's not working, and this was a high level sophisticated client, I'm like, how is it working for the person who is not speaking up? Who's not the sophisticated? It's not working well. They're just not providing the feedback.
Right.
And so it's one of those things that you can't always do this way, like change your entire firm for one client. But it allows you to be nimble. The one counter to that is sometimes in the new way of practicing law, you almost move too fast. At least this is what I've discovered. You change too much.
Yep.
Or you take your tech stack becomes like obese, and you're like, this is not a lean, mean fighting machine.
Right.
This is oh my gosh, I have now 15 different kinds of technology trying to interact through Zapier, and is this just making it more complicated, less efficient, less cost effective? Is there more tension in the process because now we've just introduced too much change? Because that's the counter.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least what I've discovered.
All right, Patrick, we're out of time. I have time for one more question. I always ask this. All right, top 3 books you would recommend? Maybe business, fiction, doesn't matter.
No, number 1, Unreasonable Hospitality.
Fantastic.
That book is brilliant. The other, I'm a big fan of reading books about restaurants and food, because there's a lot of parallels between restaurants and the legal profession.
Mm-hmm.
The other would be David Chang's Eat a Peach.
Okay.
Is a phenomenal book. It's about how he created Momofuku and grew that to like an empire and what it took. The third book would be by one of my favorite authors, Cormac McCarthy. It's a book called On the Road. It's a post-apocalyptic story of a journey of a father and his son traveling to the sea. And it's just a beautiful, wonderful, strange book.
Awesome.
That just brings into kind of focus what is important in life.
Awesome. Thank you for those recommendations. And more importantly, thank you for the time. I appreciate you being on today. And thank you for everyone tuning in to another episode of the Driven Crowd podcast. We'll see you next time.